The thick gray clouds enshrouded much of the northern side of the mountains. A chill wind cut deep into the flesh of every man in the party, save the slim cowled figure in the thin, black travel cloak guiding the party. At this level, there were even traces of snow, and, especially frost. The frost was very prevalent, giving the forest the firs through which they stalked a death-like sheen. 2 paces behind their guide, Lord Aldrich drew his own thickly furred cloak tighter. From under the hood of the rich brown and white garment, the red hair's noble narrow eyes, one deep brown, the other ice blue, darted back and forth along the landscape, seeking. His square jaw clenched in impatience.
How much farther, sorcerer?
He muttered, his words accompanied by dense white clouds.
Not much farther at all, my lord.
The black-clad figure calmly replied. Unlike the noble and the 5 burly men at arms, he strode along the uneven path as if on a pleasant afternoon hike. His voice was surprisingly deep for so thin and studious sounding a figure, even deeper than Lord Jitten's. He glanced back at the broad-shouldered aristocrat, a man built much like the fighters who served him, revealing glimpses of a head with short-cropped gray hair and an angular face with matching eyes so narrow they made Aldrich seem round. The skin had a darker, slightly yellowish cast to it, almost as if the speaker suffered jaundice.
In fact, I dare say, the first hints will soon manifest themselves. I sense nothing. Your skills are not honed as mine are, my lord, but that shall be remedied soon enough. Yes,
Aldrich grunted.
that's the point of all of this, isn't it, sorcerer?
The lead figure turned his gaze forward, leaving the noble only the back of his black hood at which to gaze.
Yes, my lord.
They fell to silence again. Behind Aldrich, the 5 servants struggled under heavy packs. In addition to foodstuffs and blankets, they carried pickaxes, huge hammers, and shovels. Each man also wore a sword at his side. As desolate as this forest seemed, there were dangers, especially from night howlers. The huge beastmen were rare to find. Not that most were so foolish as to go hunting for them, but when encountered had to be slain quickly. Night howlers thrived on meat, including human flesh. Legend said that they had not always been so monstrous, but no one in the Western Kingdoms cared about such legends. It was the blood-soaked facts that mattered. The only good night howler was a dead one. After all, as Lord Aldrich could attest, the dead ones at least made for fine, warm cloaks like the one he wore. Several more minutes passed, and still the noble sensed nothing. He probed for some distance ahead, and only noted the continual emptiness of the mountainous land. Even for this part of southeastern Westmarch, the region was desolate, not at all like the lowlands, where the lush, rich soil and pleasant rainfall made this part of the Western Kingdoms the envy of all other regions of the world. Even the thick fir forest through which they trudged felt sterile, more a ghost than a living thing. Lord Jin grunted, and this had once been the heart of ancient Westmarch. This had once been where the vast dominating estates of the Sons of Arrakis had loomed over the first beguiling kingdoms of the land. The moldering parchments and crumbling stone slabs through which Aldrich had for months poured had spoken of a much warmer, much more regal land of huge city-sized estates, each of them run by one of the 5 lines descended from the legendary Paladin Lord. Few today knew the origins of King Rakkus, founder and first ruler of Westmarch, and most of those, Aldrich included, understood only that he had come from somewhere in the east, possibly even beyond the jungles of Kyrgyzstan. As one who believed himself descended from that very same lord, Aldrich thought this most definitely the case, and the explanation for the narrowness of his own eyes. What had happened to the last of the Rakkus line was up to conjure, albeit by very few, since the legacy was all but forgotten in modern times. Lord Jin gathered from what little existed that, somewhere deep in the past, there had been a struggle for power between factions over an object of power. In fact, there had been more than one reference to it, and that had been what had first instigated him to search on. Yet, until his chance encounter with his foreign companion ahead, the noble had found only dead ends. And dead ends were not something Aldrich needed. The dreams were growing worse with each night. They tortured and beguiled him at the same time. They hinted of enemies seeking his weaknesses, shadowy figures who had become so very real to Aldrich, despite never having clear faces or intelligible voices. Each night, the whispering phantoms drew closer to overtaking him, and each night, the fear in him swelled greater. Often, he woke full of sweat, certain that his screams had been heard throughout his estate. But those dreams had also given him the first clue, the one that had led to the history of the Lord's Rakkus and, finally, to this climb into the chill mountain region. Each time, Aldrich had nearly been taken by his faceless, horrific enemies, something had saved him. At first, it had been only an indistinct object, one that appeared magically in his cupped palms. In progressive dreams, however, it had taken on form, gradually becoming a sphere, a huge pearl with odd yet familiar markings. At the same time, hints of the raucous ties to it had materialized. Old rotting banners with the house symbol still intact. Dank catacombs with the snarling wolf carved into the stone. And more. Most men would have simply thought themselves mad. But then, most men were not Lord Aldrich Jin. Even before he had determined that within him coursed the blood of the Sons of Rakkus, Aldrich had known that he was of a select few. After all, he had been gifted with a touch of magic. His skills were slight, true, but in the dreams, they had grown when he had touched the gigantic pearl. That had, in fact, been the only reason his dream self had thus far survived. And if Lord Jin was to survive in the waking world, did it not make sense that he find what his subconscious kept steering him toward? Did not all his dreams and research mean to culminate in locating what the Eastern Devil called the moon of the spider.